And so we say to our community that is joining us virtually at this time, welcome to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, the place where we express our being as living in the light, living on purpose, living in joy, living in celebration. Thank you for the birthday wishes and greetings as I celebrated my birthday last weekend. And also thank you for welcoming and embracing Reverend Sally. It's always nice to know that when I leave the community in what I think is good hands, that you warmly receive and welcome the guest. You know, I trust the guest speakers that I bring in, and just thank you for welcoming Reverend Sally to be a part of our community. Part of the time last weekend I spent with my family, and kind of did the circuit starting out in Modesto and then Stockton and Vallejo and ending up back in Monterey. It was a delight to get back to Monterey. It's amazing how my body has acclimated to the climate here. Just in the it'll be a year in November since I actually moved down. But leaving here on Saturday, I think the temperature was around, I left midday, so I think it was in the mid to high 60s. I get into Modesto, it's 99. And so stayed inside with my granddaughter and family. And I was the first one to arrive, and so my granddaughter has a 3.5-year-old, so I'm spending some time with the 3.5-year-old. And then as other family members were arriving, she had me go into her room. She wanted her undivided attention with me. And so we're playing in her room, and I was watching something that was on the TV in her room. And so she turned the TV off so that she could have my undivided attention. So that was the first spark of creativity that I noticed. And then we were playing with some of her little stuffed animals. And so I had to sit in a beanbag on the chair, a beanbag on the floor in her bedroom. Thank God for being agile. And then she actually had me down on the floor. So we would put the babies to sleep. And we'd have to lie down on the floor and sleep with the babies. And then the babies would cry. And so then we'd have to take the babies and rock them. We had to rock them until they stopped crying. Then we would put them back to sleep. So we had this little dynamic going on. And I just was observing the creativity. And then as the other little ones arrived, then her attention was focused on her little cousins. And so that was a really great time. And then I had the opportunity to meet the newest addition to the family, and that is my 5-week-old great-nephew. I think I've got the genealogy correct. He's my sister's daughter's son. So anyway, I have this new life in the family, and so it's just the expansion that is taking place, which is really nice. So I thank you for that time away. Our monthly theme we continue for August is a pause for guidance. And this morning we're talking about the GPS, our global position, our guidance positioning system. And so just a little bit of a context for you. We asked the question, is it time to do a checkup of our inner compass? Again, we're looking inward. We're assessing the dynamics of our inward being. And so some of the questions we may ask are, am I still on the path moving forward in the direction of my vision? What am I being called to do? What am I being pulled to express in my life? Knowing that that expression is forever unfolding, that it is not static. And then we ask, is there something more that is seeking to be birthed within me? What else is pulling me in the direction of my vision? Recognizing that there are many offshoots along the path that lead us to the general purpose of our vision. And then we may also ask, are there elements in my vision which are in alignment with the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision? And the vision is in alignment with this beautiful that we have in our sanctuary that reads, awakening humanity to its spiritual significance. And in awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence, we are creating an opening for the discovery of creative thought. We are creating an opening for a world that works for everyone, where each individual discovers their personal power, their ability to create an individual life that works for them exactly where they are. And so, narrowing this down a little bit more to our science of mind perspective or point of view, this pause for guidance allows us to become conscious of the still small voice that is inside of us. And it is in the silence that we hear. And only what we hear can we become conscious of. So those operate together. We move into the silence to hear, to listen with the inner ear. And it's only through listening that we become conscious of what is really pulling us in the direction of our vision. Ernest Holmes speaks about the law of correspondence. The law of correspondence reminds us that what we believe is what we can receive. And it provides us the ability to receive. And I'm sure you've heard the story about, and it takes on various symbolism depending on the setting for the story. But there's a story about the fisherman that is out and has cast his net out, and or has cast his line out, and the fish are really biting that day. And he reels in the fish, and he looks at it, and he throws it back. Casts his line out, no fish bites, reels it in, looks at it, throws it back. And another fisherman was observing him, and he said, I don't want to get into your personal business, but may I ask why it is that you're throwing the fish back? They're really biting good today. And he responds that my frying pan is only a certain size. And so if the fish that I catch is larger than the frying pan, then I have to throw it back. And so the moral of the story was to get a bigger frying pan. And so it works the same way, the law of correspondence works the same way with us. Whatever we believe, we can achieve. If we believe it, we can achieve it. And so this is an opportunity to expand our vision, to expand the desire of what it is that we're choosing to manifest in our life. And speaking of manifestation, there's this beautiful little story in this book, Handled with Prayer by Alan Cohen, that I love. And it's the story of a taxi driver and a priest who each make their transition and they get to the pearly gates. And so they're going through their little examination with Peter at the pearly gates. And so the priest walks up and he says, I've been a priest for 40 years and I've done the offices, I've delivered many mass, and I've visited these many people who were sick in the hospital, and I performed these many weddings and baptisms, and just a little resume of his life. And so St. Peter says, okay, well, stand over here for a moment and let us check your credentials. And so while the priest is waiting, the taxi driver walks up to the pearly gates, and St. Peter talks to the taxi driver, and the taxi driver provides his resume. And so he says, okay, stand over here to the side and we'll check out your credentials. And so while they're waiting, St. Peter comes back and he calls the taxi driver forward and he says, okay, you may come on in. And so the priest walks up and he says, Why is it that he gets to go in before I do? You know, he's just a lowly tax driver, and I'm a priest, and I've done all of these wonderful things for the glory of God. And St. Peter responds, yes, you were a priest, and you did all of these beautiful things. But when you said Mass, people were asleep. When the taxi driver was driving, people were praying. And so my vision is that the Sunday talks do not put you to sleep. Now, I don't want to be the taxi driver that is causing you to pray for my own guidance and direction and safety, although I would like that. But you get the idea of the story. Is that it's not always the work that we do, but it's the result of the work that makes a difference, not only in our lives, but in the lives of those that we impact. And so I have a couple of illustrations of how our GPS system is designed to work. And I'm going to offer some acronyms for you this morning. And the first one is to practice STOP. S-T-O-P, which stands for silence, time, opportunity, and presence. We begin by going into the silence. We take time to be still and to know that God is. We find the opportunity to truly express this silence, and we listen as presence whispers its wisdom. I think the last one is the key, that we listen as presence whispers its wisdom. Ernest Holmes offers these words from our Science of Mind textbook. The sweet song of silence is forever singing in our heart, and seldom does this voice penetrate the outer world of human experience. We must learn to listen for this voice. Call it conscious, call it intuition, whatever you will. It is there. No one can go unguided through life, for we're all divine at the center of the Most High. And that's very comforting for me to know that no one goes unguided through life, for we're all at the divine center of the Most High. And the Most High is the indwelling spirit within us. And so this invitation is to be intentional, to be conscious, and to be mindful, to set aside time each day to stop. And again, the acronym is silence, time, opportunity, and presence. So we set aside each day to stop and to go within. We let our soul surrender. And if it serves you and supports you, set a phone reminder, which doesn't really work for me because I don't always pay attention to it. You can schedule a meeting with yourself. That generally works for me because I get an alert if there's a meeting that is scheduled. Or anything else that you can think of that creates this intentional opportunity for you to stop, to go within, to take the opportunity to be with the presence and to listen for guidance. And the second illustration of acronyms are intelligence quotient, or IQ, emotional quotient, or EQ, and spiritual quotient, SQ. So our IQ, the intellectual quotient, looks at the cognitive intelligence of a person by measuring their cognitive ability. For example, how much information can one retain, or what are their problem-solving skills? I'm going to wrap all of these together. The emotional quotient looks at the emotional power of an individual, the state of the heart through which feeling something and understanding it helps with that feeling. The emotional quotient can be partial because it changes from human to human. So again, the emotional quotient is what looks at the state of the heart through the feeling tone. And that can change from human to human because we're each individualized expressions of spirit. Now, the spiritual quotient looks at the spiritual power of an individual. It is the state of heart, the state of mind, and the universe through which we feel, think, and idealize something. The spiritual quotient is dependent upon the ideal way which is identified by the universe. It can't be partial because it can't be changed. The spiritual quotient is that which looks at the spiritual power of a person, and it is dependent upon an ideal that is defined by the universe. It is impartial, and it can't be changed. And so out of this comes spirituality. And spirituality increases the ability of an individual to be creative and to be aware and insightful. This is the reason why in our teaching we emphasize consistent spiritual practices, allowing us to stretch and grow in consciousness. All three of these, the intelligence quotient, the emotional quotient, and the spiritual quotient, are valued and needed for us to be fully realized individual expressions of spirit. You know, we have a tendency in our human incarnations to compartmentalize things, and yet we know that there's this body-mind connection, that we're a unified whole. However, we have structured these various components, and these components sometimes get in the way of our remembering that we are whole, perfect, and complete just as we are in the mind of spirit. And so these three quotients combined together are active when we pause and when we stop and develop our spiritual quotient that activates the abilities in our lives. And so the final illustration is our GPS, or our guidance positioning system. Or another way of looking at it in spiritual terms, it is our God positioning system. It is the connection of the divine spirit to God that keeps us on track in our lives. Sometimes our God positioning system needs to recalculate the route, giving us a clear signal to act according to the divine principle of love and lead us in a new direction where we can hear a better call. You know, quite often we will hear someone say, something told me to go in this direction. Something told me to move this way. Something told me to stop. Something told me to do whatever it is. And when asked what something is that inner guidance. It is that still small voice that is whispering to us. And when we pay attention to its guidance, you know, it recalculates. It's like using the GPS systems in our cars or on our cell phones. Even though we may know a particular route, if the GPS is recalculating the route and giving us a signal to go in a different direction, it is taking us around an obstacle that would slow us down and cause us to be delayed in an unnecessary manner. And I know I've shared this with you before. I have a tendency to argue with my GPS. And I'll tell it, I don't want to go this way. And each time I do that, I wind up having a detour or a delay. And it's a reminder, oh, I should pay attention. But do I pay attention the next time around? Not always. And so this is how it is with our spiritual life quite frequently. Well, I should not say quite frequently. I don't know that to be the truth. But there may be occasions in our spiritual life where we argue with the guidance of spirit. We'll say, no, I don't want to wait. And I think one of those areas is in patience. We can have everything we want. We just can't have it at the same time. We wouldn't have the capacity to handle it at the same time. And yet we argue for our limitations rather than practicing patience and allowing everything to unfold, recognizing that our life is unfolding in the divine flow. Everything is outpicturing in divine, right, and perfect order. And when I take that step back in my own life, and when I listen and hear Spirit say to me, not now, not now. And when I listen to the not now, and I pay attention, and I wait, everything unfolds much grander than I had the picture of in my mind to start with. And so we are encouraged to take the time to see if we need to recalculate the route in our own lives. Be mindful of the people we surround ourselves with, because they can redirect us and divert us from the direction that Spirit is calling us and guiding us. Surround yourself with people that demonstrate their own inner light. And those who demonstrate their own inner light draw from our light, we draw from their light. And so there's that divine connection there. And I love this statement from Ernest Holmes in his Sermon by the Sea. And he writes, "We have discovered that which the great, the good, and the wise have sung about and thought about. The improvised splendor within ourselves and within each other. We have direct contact with it. We have direct contact with the inner splendor that is within ourselves and the inner splendor that is within each other. All we have to do is be aware, to be alert, and to see it." And so I call to action this morning. I go back to the writings of our founder, Dr. Holmes. And he offers these timeless wisdom insights for us. And this is from what we believe. We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. And then from the Science of Mind textbook, hence it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing not to work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. This is a riddle. It takes a minute to wrap our brain around it, but again, it's like the scripture from the teachings of Jesus the Christ. It says, "It is done unto you as you believe." And so, if we believe that our good is available to us at any time that we can accept it, it is done so. And if we believe that I can't have this, then it's done so. It is done as we believe. And so we go back to our opening acronym, and that is to stop. We stop and pay attention to our individual, still small voice, that voice which can only be heard when we take the pause from the busyness of life and truly listen. I know in my own life, I can get caught up in the busyness. So I have one more thing to do. And if I do this one more thing, then I'm going to stop. It was like working on the computer. Well, I'll just do this one more project, or I'll complete this one more statement, or whatever the one more is. And that one more 3 hours later is, where's the time going? And so it's stop. Pay attention to listen to the individual still small voice. Listen to the need to recalculate our internal route into a life that enhances our individual spiritual quotient. And we may ask, what can I do to slow down just in this moment and feel the presence. And it could simply be pausing to take that breath, taking in a deep cleansing breath, releasing it, just knowing that in the silence is where the presence speaks. Plan for one or more spiritual pauses throughout your day to just stop. You may do so by listening to some uplifting music, reading an inspiring article, or reading a chapter in a book. Take that pause to recalculate your own route. And then our reflection or journal questions for the week, which I've asked our tech team to place into the chat for you, and also into the comment section on our Facebook page. What do you do to give yourself a break and feel closer to Spirit? What do you do to give yourself a break and feel closer to Spirit? How much of your ego is engaged in each deed? What is your spiritual quotient? And I just want to add a little disclaimer here about the ego. You know, the ego gets a bad rap. Unfortunately, the ego really gets a bad rap. The ego is designed to protect us. And so it does its job by warning us of something that is unfamiliar. When we come into alignment and agreement with our ego, and this is what I offer when I teach meditation, is invite the ego into the experience. Let the ego know that it is safe. Invite it to come in and be a part of it. And so as we are engaging in our stop activity, invite the ego to pause, to be still, and to come into the space with you. And then the third reflection question is, have there been times in your life where you've recalculated your route? Have there been times in your life where you have recalculated your route? And then our affirmation for the week is, I hear the still small voice expressing its love through me. And so I'm going to invite you to say that with me. I hear the still small voice expressing its love through me. Let us pray together. Knowing that divine love is always expressing itself through all of its creation. It expresses itself as the one power, the one presence, the one unifying source of absolutely all that there is. And this divine love, the still small voice, expresses itself through me as me. And as this is true for me, it is true for each one that is joining us this morning for this experience of celebration at the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living, as well as those who are part of our virtual community and will be watching this at a time that is convenient with their particular schedules. Knowing that God is not local and God is on duty 24/7, 365, including the leap year. All of those decisions, God is ever present. And so I celebrate this presence in my life. I celebrate this presence in the life of our spiritual community. I celebrate this presence in the life of all communities where people are coming together to recognize that there is the source that is leading and guiding and pulling them in the direction of their higher direction. It doesn't matter how the source is identified. In our teachings, we honor all paths because we know that all paths lead home. And so as this inner wisdom continues to recalculate and repurpose and redirect us towards the higher vision, that vision which we have for ourselves as well as that vision which it has for us, bringing those into alignment with one one another. I am affirming and declaring that everything continues to unfold in divine, right, and perfect order in the lives of each one that is gathered here. I speak a word of blessing for harmony and peace in our nation and in our world. And in order for that to outpicture, we have to go back to the beginning and begin with our individual, unique, identifying self. When there is peace in my mind, as a songwriter once said, when there is peace in my heart, when there is peace in my mind, there will be peace in the world. And so I'm declaring peace within the very essence of my own being, knowing that as I stand grounded in the spirit of love, love that is expressing itself in all ways, at all times, and in all places in my life, and through the lives of those that I come into contact with, I declare that the same inner peace is available to each and every one. And so we take that holy pause, we take that holy breath, we step aside from the busyness of life and just declare peace. Peace be still. Peace within me be still. Because when there is peace in my mind, when there is peace in my heart, there is peace in the world. And as we practice peace locally, it expands and expands and expands globally. It's like the expression, each one touch one. So each time we grant and express peace, we're planting that seed in consciousness, and that seed multiplies throughout our entire planet. And so this morning we call forward peace in those places where there's turmoil. Peace for our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. Peace for our brothers and sisters in Haiti that have been impacted by the earthquake. Peace for our brothers and sisters in all other places where there is unrest, knowing that God's will prevails in all of that. And while we may not see it, I have the confidence of knowing that something good and marvelous and magnificent has to emerge out of this. Because God's will wants for us to live joyfully and happily and prosperous, and not to be in bondage. Within our own individual lives, those prayer requests that are in our heart, and those that may have been spoken to a practitioner or a minister or a confidant, I know that the answer is always yes. And that as we stop and listen within, we hear the answer to the prayer. Because the answer lies within. It is in the stillness that we hear the voice that says, go this way, go this way, go this way. Be here, be still, be known, move. However the voice speaks, we listen. And so I pray for right livelihood in the lives of each one, for right living, for right and perfect health, knowing that the health and the strength of God is mine to use. There is a healing that is taking place within the body temple, and that healing process is taking place on the inside. It is taking place unseen. And yet I know that it is emerging from a place of perfection and wholeness. And for this and so much more, I give thanks. I give thanks for the word that is spoken. I give thanks for this time together. I give thanks for all there is in this marvelous life. And I release this word into the law, which always says yes, just allowing it to be so. And I invite you to affirm it with me as we say. And so it is. If there's a meeting that is scheduled, or anything else that you can think of that creates this intentional. And now it is our time for gracious giving, for Quotient, to take the opportunity. And again, I want to thank each of you for the magnificent way that you continue to support. And a second illustration of that one that allows us to support that intelligence quotient inspired, where God inspired to do emotional quotient locally in our community, and spiritual quotient, SQ. Make ourselves available. So our IQ, the intellectual quotient, looks at the definition of the abundant statement or invite measuring what would be its abilities now. For example, how much recognize the oneness of God, or what are their problems as the source of my abundance? I'm going to wrap all of these out of my abundance consciousness. Emotional everything looks like a desire, emotional power of an individual. The state of the heart, with gratitude and thanksgiving and understanding, now participate in the flow with that uninterrupted abundance. The emotional release this invisible substance as an outer symbol because it changes from human into the physical world. So again, this prosperous experience is evidence the state of my heart, abundance through the conscious tone. And we have on our screen change from human to human ways that we may experience individualized expressions and participate in the law of service. Now the spiritual quotient looks at the spiritual and check to our center. You may make a donation. It is the state of heart through our website, mind, and the universe through which you may also text and idealize something. The spiritual quotient is here, and the text number is on the screen. Way which is identified by. And I thank those who have joined us virtually and invite you to tune in next spiritual quotient, where we will include our August series, and the topic will be Rise and Re-emerge. Thank you, God bless you, and good morning to our virtual community. And for those of us who are in the sanctuary, if you would like to now, you may place your offering in the offering box that is on the table in the center, or you may do it after service.